Hello everybody, welcome back to Curiosity. So I think we have come to the most important part of the series in which I will present before you some arguments against free will. So out of no free will of my own, I have chosen this to be the first argument. The basic argument. Why did I choose this? I don't know, because of the way I am. But am I responsible for the way I am? Not in an ultimate sense. I didn't choose my genes and upbringing and so on. But given all those factors, I can still consciously override and supersede those effects, right? Let's explore. In 1994, one of the topmost analytical philosophers alive today, Professor Galen Strawson, came up with an argument against free will and moral responsibility that he calls the basic argument. I was lucky enough to have had a short chat with Galen a few years ago, but I hope I could bring him on someday on our channel. So the crude version of Galen Strawson's basic argument goes like this. You do whatever you do in a particular situation because of the way you are. In order to be ultimately responsible for what you do, you've got to be ultimately responsible for the way you are. But you can't be truly responsible for the way you are. Therefore, you can't be truly responsible for what you do. But free will requires that you be truly responsible for what you do. Therefore, your will is not free, you don't have free will. Now, why can't you be truly responsible for the way you are? In order to be truly responsible for the way you are, you'd have to somehow make yourself the way you are. But even if you did make yourself the way you are, you'd already have to be some way to choose the way you want to make yourself be. You'd already have to kind of set yourself up the way you want yourself to be. And where did that come from? You were already a particular way during that point too. You'd have to somehow get back behind that too and determine the way you were then. But did you choose and create the way you were during that point? What you get is a classic infinite regress. You just can't get back behind yourself in such a way that you could be held responsible for the way you are and what you do. To be responsible in some situation S, one must have been responsible for the way one was at S-1. In order to be responsible for the way one was at S-1, one must have been responsible for the way one was at S-2 and so on. There must have been an act of origination of a new causal chain of events. But this is just impossible. Man cannot create himself or his mental states ex nihilo, which is to say that man cannot be causa sui. Nothing can be causa sui, the uncaused cause of oneself. In order to be free here, human beings will have to exist before they existed, which is just impossible and makes no sense. Now you could say that, wait, it's not just the way I am that I do whatever I do. I have a conscious choice to override and supersede what I feel like doing because of the way I am, right? I have an internal volition and an autonomous decision that I take, right? Hold your horses, because when I say that I do what I do because the way I am, the basic argument is factoring in everything. It's not just including genes and upbringing, it's including everything. All the thoughts and counter thoughts, all the intentions and counter intentions, the desires and the lack of it, all the minute mental states of the brain and neurons and the firing of it and all the neural circuits in it. All of that stuff, the whole complexity. That one moment or many moments in the past when you learned not to do what you're naturally inclined to do, for example, to not go for that third slice of pizza, even that disposition is included in the way you are. Did you choose how exact a mixture of nature and nurture you are at this particular moment? You didn't. You just are this way. So suppose you try to change yourself and the way you are at this particular moment. The way you try to change yourself and the degree of success of your changing yourself will always be a function of the way you already are at this moment. What you do in the end and how you become in the end will always be a function of the total brain state at that moment, including your sense of being able to consciously vary things and override and supersede your impulses and your nature. Now, this is the case regardless of whether the world is deterministic or indeterministic or a mixture of both. This is the case even if you believe in an immaterial soul or ectoplasm. I kind of think this argument is a knockdown argument against free will, and I'll be honest with you, I was gobsmacked when I read the basic argument, especially the main part of it when it says that in order to change yourself, you'd already have to be a certain way. So it just struck like lightning. It was kind of a eureka moment for me. But did I choose that moment to be that influential in my mind? No. I found it impressive, and I had no control over it, as I don't have free will. Another version of the argument is this: nothing can be causa sui, nothing can be the cause of itself. In order to be truly morally responsible for one's actions, one would have to be causa sui, at least in certain crucial mental respects. Therefore, nothing can be truly morally responsible. It's interesting to note that Galen Strawson's father, Peter Strawson, who was a famous philosopher himself, was not a free will skeptic. He was a compatibilist. And I think Galen successfully shows how his father was wrong about free will in the core sense of it. Consider the following. Are you responsible for the way you are? Can you change? And were you responsible for your genes, your parents, your childhood, your upbringing, your ancestry, when you were born, where you were born, how you were born, your environment, surroundings, laws of nature, brain, mental states, nervous system, neural circuits, neural anatomy, neuropsychology, neurophysiology, neurons, their structure and how they fire and when, your likings, your desires, your motivations, your context, your story, your neighborhood's influence, atmosphere, circumstances, your influences, your friends, your family, relatives, circle, teachers, school, prenatal development, first, second and third trimester fetal development, hormonal functioning and system, endocrinology, culture, tradition, your mental and physical abilities, intelligence, emotional quotient, understanding ability, forgetfulness, your unconscious mind, your subconscious mind, social and economic background, status and conditions, financial situations, psychological dispositions, predicaments, education, learning and its extent, and the amount and quality of perception, and when and where to apply those perceptions, interests, impulses, urges, intentions, cells, tissues, organs, diseases and their impacts on you, society, body functioning, metabolism, traits, values, development, principles, biases, past experience, internal and external compulsions and persuasions, your conditioning, memories, knowledge, and so on and so on. Now, you'd agree that most of those things you didn't choose, can't change, and weren't responsible for. But you can say that you can change some of those things that I just said. But to do that, to change, you'll already have to be a certain way. And to be free, you'll have to have created yourself that way. And even if you think you did create yourself that way, you'd already be a certain way to have done that. And like I said, it's an infinite regress. And you'll never get to the causa sui freedom that you require for free will. But Galen Strawson says that we can't help but have that feeling of free will. This is where I disagree with him to a certain extent, because like I say, I think that we can experience the lack of free will, especially through meditation or psychedelics. I want you to think about this argument and watch the video again and again until you grasp the argument. And tell me in the comments below, did you like the basic argument? How convincing was it? Comment in your thoughts and share this video with as many people as you can. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of the arguments that I'm gonna put out. More arguments coming soon. Stay tuned and stay curious. I'll see you in the next one.